Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 287 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is no shortcuts. Our quote of the day comes to us from our guest's father, Dave Kelfer. The only shortcut in life is to start now. Before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to remind everyone about my first book, which I wrote with Chris Wilberding, that is available now for pre-order. You can grab yourself a copy of The Positivity Tribe by heading over to thepositivitytribe.com. Help us continue to spread positivity, one person at a time. I'm really excited to bring you today's episode. I've been emailing back and forth with today's guest for the last 2 months, and I'm glad that we're able to finally connect. Jake Kelfer absolutely delivers, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Jake, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Dude, it's great to be here. I'm stoked for this convo. If this is anything like what we just chatted about offline, this is going to be a real treat. I'm stoked.
Awesome. So the first question I ask everybody is, are you ready to positively impact at least one person today?
100%.
So I want to ask you if you have either a no-quit story of your own or perhaps a really challenging time where you could have given up or given in, but you didn't and you kept on going.
Of course. And, I love this question, right off the bat, because, look, everybody has a story to tell, right, in their life. Everyone's got something. And it's not that you're never going to have one of these experiences. Not that you're ever going to not have a limiting belief. It's not that you're ever not going to want to try to achieve something. There's always going to be a challenge along the way. And that's what's going to make it even sweeter in the end, is when you can go through this challenge, you can learn about it, you can grow from it, and then you can start to expand on how to live because of it. So for me, my no-quit story, I got to go with when I was growing up, because this kind of gave me this underdog, do whatever it takes mentality that challenges the status quo in what I do now. And when I was younger, I'm from Southern California. I absolutely loved the Lakers growing up. I mean, we had a room in our house called the Laker Room, okay? Painted purple and gold, all the memorabilia. It's awesome. And I had a dream of playing in the NBA. Now, I was a very undersized kid growing up. I was a point guard. And when I got to high school, I had played JV as a freshman. So I was already, more advanced than a lot of people, but now it was my sophomore year. And my sophomore year, I had to make a decision. Do I want to stay on the JV team, be one of the captains, one of the stars? Or do I want to try out for the varsity team, but risk potentially getting dominated, risk potentially getting cut, risk potentially not making the team? But I knew that if I wanted to compete against the best, if I wanted to be the best, I had to go against the best and try, even if there was a chance I might fail, even if there was a chance I might not succeed. And that entire summer, I tried out for the team, started as the 15th guy on the bench, tried to find ways to improve, stayed after, showed up early, was the first guy giving my teammates high fives. And what started off as the last guy off the bench turned into a starting point guard spot at the end of that summer, going into that season. And at the end of that season, there was a moment where, after all that work had gone into it, at the end of that season, there was a moment where we were in the playoffs and we were down by 1. The clock was about to expire. There was 5 seconds on the clock. Now, this season, before I tell you what happens in this moment, this season was one of the most up and down experiences. People kept telling me I wasn't good enough, that I didn't belong, that there was no purpose for a 5'4" kid competing against future Division I players, that I was getting dominated in the post. My coach would take me out if there was mismatches. Like the mental game, I had to overcome so much to make it to this point. But here we are. I'm closing the game. I'm the point guard. Our best player has the ball. 5 seconds on the clock. We all think he's about to shoot it. We're down by 1. With 2 seconds left, he throws it to me in the corner to hit the wide open 3. I don't take the shot because in that moment, all I see is the hoop. I grab the ball, I take one dribble, and I go up like I'm about to dunk it. Like, I remember this so clearly. And I lay the ball up. Obviously, I don't dunk it, right? I lay the ball up. I get hacked, fall to the ground, but the whistle doesn't blow right away, and the clock expires. I miss. We lose. All of a sudden, the ref blows his whistle. Foul, 2 shots. Line them up. I get to the free throw line. The ref throws me the ball. I knock down both those shots. We move on to the furthest in school history than we've ever been before. And what this taught me What this taught me, when you talk about no quit living, when you talk about facing adversity, when you talk about being positive and impacting others, this moment gave me a chance to realize, what am I made of? When everybody is telling you no, are you willing to keep going? Whenever all the signs point to you're not going to make it, are you still going to give it your best shot? When you have doubt and you're insecure about what could happen, are you willing to try? And that is a little bit of my no quit story, which has just served a huge lesson for me. And I'm so grateful to have learned that early on as I've gone through my career.
So I have to be full and fair disclosure here. Anytime there's a no quit story that involves basketball, I have to say that it's a little bit higher on my list for those listeners that know, obviously, my basketball background. But I wanted to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, just telling our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you're doing today.
Yeah, of course. And this is where basketball comes into play, right? So, I'm a kid that grew up on family, academics, and athletics. Blessed to have two incredible parents, love them dearly. They're my biggest heroes and biggest role models. Have a younger brother who's taught me an incredible amount in life. And over the course of my journey, I went to college at University of Southern California, wanted to be a sports agent because I couldn't make it to the NBA. Well, when I graduated, the Lakers offered me a job to work in their corporate partnerships division, which basically meant on game nights, I got to pick out and execute all the sponsor agreements. So if there was a halftime contest, I picked the contestant. If there was a three-point shootout, I picked the contestants. If there was a meet and greet, I picked the people to do the meet and greet, or got to work with the brand partners. While I was working with the Lakers, ended up writing my first book. And that turned into speaking all over. A couple years later, I started the Professional Basketball Combine to help NBA draft prospects play in front of NBA executives and scouts, helping now over 70 guys sign their first pro contract in 31 countries. And now I coach business entrepreneurs, ambitious entrepreneurs, and freedom seekers on how to grow their business through creating a world-class network. And that's been the main focus. I
appreciate that. And I think it's interesting how basketball is a foundation of a lot of the things that you do. It's clearly a foundation of a lot of the stuff that I do. And I think that the reason the similarities for basketball and life is it's the foundation of hard work, commitment, discipline. So I'm glad you touched on that. Wanted to ask you, if you had to define yourself, but you could only use one word, what word would you pick?
Oh man, this is good. One word, not even a phrase. One word. I would say driven. I like that word, driven.
I think it's a good word, and it's a powerful word that a lot of people use because you can have that correlate to any area of life: business, professional, family, friends, charities. So, going back on your life, I'm wondering, as we're breaking it down, and what we're always looking to do is what people are doing that are successful. So I have to ask you, do you have a morning routine that you swear by?
I do have a morning routine, and it evolves for me, okay? Because I'm an experimenter. I'm an experimenter because the only way I'm going to get better is by experimenting and making these adjustments. Now, I've tried everything that I've read. I've tried everything from literally everything that you can imagine, right? I'm sure you've had some incredible guests, some incredible routines, but here's my routine as of today, and I've altered it a little bit, but I'm going to break it down for you. Most days, Monday through Friday, I get 8 hours of sleep. 8 hours of sleep is key for me because that's the amount of time I want to sleep, which means I have to get to bed at the right time. I wake up at 5:32 a.m. in the morning. 5:32 specifically, not 5:30, not 5:35. And we could talk about that at another time, but it's hilarious. And then I immediately, as soon as I wake up, there's no snooze. There is no snooze. Wake up, my feet touch the ground. I meditate for 3 minutes, focusing on my breaths, inhale, exhale, often using the 2x1 method, the 2x method, which is inhale for 2 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, or inhale for 3 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds, right? Inhale, and then exhale for twice as long. After that, go to the bathroom, whatever. I come straight to my desk and I hammer out for about an hour. I hammer out 2 Pomodoros. A Pomodoro is a 25-minute period of non-distracted time. No social media, no phone, nothing. It's only focusing on that task with a timer set. After that 25-minute period is up, you take a 5-minute breather, reset, and start the next 25 minutes. That'll take me for an hour. And I focus on my most important tasks. The things that if I get these done, my day's a W, right? Because there's no one up, no one distracting me, nothing. It's purely me. I can sometimes do 2 tasks, or I'll do that 1 task in that 50-minute 2 intervals, right? From there, I journal, I read, and I have a whole journaling routine, but it's typically about 1 page. I read for 20 minutes. Then I stretch and do my visualizations on my desires and the person I'm becoming, the person I aspire to be, the person that I'm living, reminding myself of how successful I already am in the pursuit of even greater experiences. Then I go on a 1 mile run. And yes, 1 mile specifically because I want to get my heart rate up and break a little bit of a sweat. I come back, I take a 1 minute cold shower, leading into a warm shower because I love the warm shower, but I know the power of a cold shower. And then I finish off my shower. I come back, I get ready, and then my day begins. So from 5:32 to about 8:30, and again, like I said, I'm experimenting on the timing of all this. From 5:32 to about 8:30, that's my routine. I love it. It's my time, and we're crushing it.
You know, I think it's really important that you touched on something, the experiment part. The reason I asked that question to each guest is there is not one size fits all when it comes to a morning routine. I've had guests that have literally a 2 to 2.5, 3 hour routine. I've had guests that have the flip side of that, a 10-minute routine. But I think you said something that's very interesting. It evolves. And I think the reality is that when you're in your late teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, your life changes. Maybe there's kids, maybe there's a spouse, maybe there are grandkids, different job. And I think that's why I asked that question is we want to just have different ideas and things for our listeners to think about. And again, with that notion that there is not one size fits all. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So going into the reading for 20 minutes, another question I ask each guest is if there's something that you're currently reading or perhaps you've read recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners.
Where to begin? Where to begin? So I'll just give a couple books that I've read recently that I enjoyed and that I thought were pretty powerful. Tiny Habits, which is an incredible thing, talking about the structure of how to build habits, which is super powerful when you're talking about performance and in life and business. I just read Jim Quick's Limitless book, which is all about understanding how to learn, not just that we do learn, but how to learn. And there was a great chapter for me on speed reading and memory, because those are two areas that I can take myself to the next level in, because a lot of people read. But if you want to be the best in the world, you got to be able to read faster and retain more information, right? Because time is our most precious resource. So that was my takeaway from there. And then the book I'm currently reading is called Friend of a Friend, which is by David Burkus. And it's about becoming a super connector, building relationships, and kind of almost telling great stories of how to really build these incredible networks of people.
I've not heard of Friend of a Friend. Is that a new book?
I think it came out 2 years ago.
Okay.
But it's so far it's really great. I'm a little further than halfway, and he has some incredible stories in there. So if you like stories about people that have become successful, it's wonderful.
That's awesome. And selfishly I asked that question, and I usually take a ton of notes, and now I have another book, so I appreciate that. So if you could go back to the 20-year-old version of yourself and give yourself just one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it'd be the piece of advice that I continue to give myself every single day that started when I was a teenager with my mom. She used to text me before every basketball game, live in the moment and enjoy the journey. And the reason this is so powerful for me is because I said my word was driven, right? I'm an ambitious person. I want to keep going. I want to evolve. I want to keep growing. I have the craziest goals and dreams to achieve. But there's no point in going after all those things if I'm not enjoying the moments, the conversations that are going to get me there along the way. And so the one piece of advice is, the future is going to happen whether you plan for it or not, right? So the best thing that I can do is to enjoy the ride while pursue it relentlessly. And so that's the best piece of advice that I would give my 20-year-old self when I was first getting ready to graduate college and start my adventure in the professional world.
I love it. I think that's fantastic advice. If I had the opportunity to grant you dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick and why?
Oh, man, one person. Shoot, Chris, come on, man. Let me see here. One person, dead or alive. Magic Johnson's always been one of my role models and one of my heroes. So he's definitely at the top of the list. And to be honest, for the sake of this, he was the first person that came to mind. So I'll stay true to that and just roll with him. But he's done it on the court and off the court, and he's a Laker. I was number 32 because of him. So that's what I got to go with.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm curious to get your perspective. Not only am I going to ask you for the best all-time basketball player in your definition, I want you to rank 1, 2, and 3.
Come on, man. Come on. Man, I don't normally share this stuff on the record. Here we go. Here we go. I think, especially after watching The Last Dance, because I'm 27 years old, and so I got to barely see the tail end of Michael, right? But he's just the best. After seeing The Last Dance, Michael's number one. Gosh, this is so challenging. I'm gonna keep it similar with guys holding the ball, right? Because you could talk about Kareem, you could talk about Wilt, you could talk about Shaq, talk about pretty much any of the top 10 Laker players. You could put them into this mix, or even Timmy D or whatever. But I'm gonna go with MJ, LeBron, and Kobe as my three top players. And
this is audio only, but those are my top three players in that rank. So that is awesome. I wasn't a big Kobe fan initially. I'm a few years older than you, so I actually saw the entire career of Michael, both comebacks as well. But it wasn't until the last probably 7 or 8 years of Kobe's career that I really understood how good he was. And obviously, you're a Laker fan. You've followed him. His work ethic is second to none, and his ability to just literally get up at no sleep and just come in and put the work in. So, and you and I have a friend in common, Alan Stein Jr. He's got a fantastic Kobe Bryant story, which I'm sure you've heard multiple times. So, wanted to get your perspective on the word accountability. It's something we talk about often, and I want to ask, what does accountability mean to you, or perhaps how do you define it?
This is a powerful word, and this is one of those words when you think about it, there's so much that can be unraveled by the word accountability, right? Because accountability is doing the things you say you can do, which can lead to responsibility, right? Accountability is by executing on the things that need to be done, which can be in the form of discipline. Accountability can be your responsibility to somebody else and holding somebody accountable. And, when I think about it in my life, accountability is really being able to, and I'm just going to give a personal definition of how it relates to myself, is accountability is the word that I would use to describe the expectations I put on myself and holding myself to that high standard of achieving those expectations. And being accountable means continuously doing the things along that journey that are going to get me to the results I want, right? Checking in with myself, tracking the progress, and executing along the journey. And so that's how I would kind of define it in the sake of personal accountability. And then when I think of accountability in terms of a broader standpoint, and the broader standpoint of helping other people in terms of coaching, in terms of serving, I think of accountability as giving them the guidelines, giving them the structure to help them stay disciplined. And that's sometimes one of the things that people need most in the world, is they just need a little bit of guidance. They just need someone to hold them accountable. That's one of the biggest ways we can achieve more goals, build better habits, and be more successful in our life, build better relationships, is when we have somebody that holds us accountable because they've been where we are and they help us get to where we want to go.
So speaking of that, we also touch on often accountability partners. Have you had accountability partners in both your personal and professional career?
Yeah, I have accountability partners in all aspects. I mean, I've really tried to up that in my life. I have mentors that hold me accountable. I have coaches that hold me accountable. I have friends that hold me accountable. And here's the beautiful thing about life is not every friend is created equal. Not every friend serves the same purpose. And one of the things that we often get caught up in, especially if you run your own business or you start your own business or you're in an independent type of career, is you get caught up in this idea that we have to be accountable by our friends, right? And our friends hold us accountable in the same ways. But every friend serves a different purpose, serves a different role. They're the friends that may be holding you accountable in your workouts, in your fitness routine, in your health routine. That friend is different than the friend that's going to hold you accountable and being true to yourself and being vulnerable with your partner, right? There's different types of friends and different types of people that can be accountability partners. And I think something that I would recommend to anybody is, if you're listening to this, is it's not a one size fit all, right? That might be the theme of this podcast. It's not one size fits all. It's find the size that fits for you, right? And your accountability partner should be somebody that believes in you, that believes you're capable of it, but that also pushes you harder than anybody else will push you, even if it's the things you don't want to hear. Because in order for us to grow and to reach our peak, we need to be pushed to that next level. And so that's kind of how I would frame it, the accountability partners that I've had in my life, and how I recommend other people to kind of utilize accountability partners in their life.
Now, I appreciate you expanding on that. And one thing I just want to reiterate what you said to our listeners is you have coaches, you have mentors, you have accountability partners. And I think that's something that I've found to be really interesting over the last 6 to 12 months of interviews with the show is that there are so many people that are successful in different areas of life. We've had guests from literally all walks of life, but so many of them pay for coaches. So many of them have mentors that mentor them. So many of them have mentees that they're mentoring. So many of them have different accountability partners for different things, like you said, fitness or with a spouse. And you also said something early on in that last segment that was really important, is all friends are not created equal. And it doesn't mean that a friend is better than the other. And if, one was hanging off the mountain and the other was, you'd be like, all right, I'm only going to save you. No, that's what's so valuable about life and friendship, is you have that friend who's going to be there in your worst times. You have the friend that you can always call, the one that you can go out and have fun with, the one who you're going to go to the gym with at 6 a.m. and they're going to be there. So I'm really glad you touched on that. Wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about where they can find you. And also, I know you've written not one, but 2 books. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that with our listeners as well.
Yeah, I mean, the best places for anyone that's listening to find me is on Instagram or on social media at Jake Kelfer. I'm always on there. And my website, jakekelfer.com. Those are the best places to find me, learn more about me, connect with me. And then the best thing that we'll do is, you just mentioned I've written 2 books. The first book's called Elevate Beyond, which is tailored towards the younger demographic on how to stand out in the job market and discover your passion. Wrote that in my car in the mornings before going to work for the Lakers. And then my second book, which I'll gift everybody here a free copy of, anyone listener that's interested in learning how to build a better community, increase their relationships in life and business. That's called Elevate Your Network. And all you got to do is go to the link in my bio on Instagram or on my website, and you'll be able to get a free paperback copy shipped to your doorstep. All you got to do is pay for the shipping.
Awesome. That I appreciate that, and hopefully some of our listeners will take you up on that. Speaking of Instagram and social media, obviously we're going through some challenging times. 2020 has been a very challenging year, and then some. Wanted to ask if there's anybody or 1 or 2 people that you follow on social media that you'd like to recommend to our listeners that really put up that inspiring and those positive messages.
There's so many people doing some incredible stuff. You have the general, like kind of more popular type thing, like Tank's Good News. He always puts out some good stuff, or any of these good news accounts. I think that's what he's called, or what they're called. Those are really great accounts to feed you with positive news, because negative news is just causing so much internal depression and anxiety and controversy. It's proven by the science that it's showing that when you consume the negative news. And then, a couple people that I really enjoy. Angie Lee, if you're a female that's into empowerment, Angie Lee and Chris Akuchis, they're both fantastic. If you're into peak performance, Brian Mayoral, who is Tony Robbins' #1 peak performance strategy, Brandon Cohen, the CEO of Liquid IV. Their mission is literally to change the world, and their product is absolutely incredible. So those are some of the people that I look to for inspiration that maybe you haven't heard in the mainstream as much.
No, I appreciate that. And I love that question, because what you just said is why I asked that question. Is we all know the Rocks, the Gary V's, those type of people, because they have multiple millions of followers. But for me, it's the step below, or the 2 or 3 steps below, that aren't as mainstream or popular. For me, and you said something that just hits home, is news is all about negativity. You look at the news now and it's Corona this, and deaths, and this shutting down, and anti-Trump, anti-Biden. And for me, it's what do you feed yourself every single day? And we're all spending probably way too much time on social media, our phones. But if we can tweak those algorithms, where now you're seeing that good stuff, that's why I like to ask it for our listeners. And I appreciate you gave quite a few. So we're going to switch lanes here into what we call our hot seat questions. And the only request we have of you is you spit out the first thing that comes to mind.
You got it. I'll be quick.
Last meal, you can pick absolutely anything. What do you pick?
With no stomach issues, I'm going Taco Bell Cheesy Gordita Crunch, and then also a second round of sushi. I love it.
Favorite smell?
Favorite smell? The ocean. And waking up on the beach with the ocean.
All-time favorite sport? I think I know it, but
basketball.
All-time favorite team? Los Angeles Lakers.
Yes.
Favorite movie?
The Sandlot.
Oh, great flick. Do you have an all-time favorite quote?
All-time favorite quote. Oh my gosh. I do, and I'm totally blanking on it. I'll go with this one. First one that came to my mind. It's from my dad. The only shortcut in life is to start now.
Ooh, I like that. That is an awesome quote. Favorite singer, group, or band?
John Legend.
Awesome.
Followed by Beyonce.
And if you were stuck in a foxhole and you could only have one person to have your back, who would you pick?
My dad.
That is awesome. So, last question I have for you, Jake. Same question I ask everybody, is if you have some parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners.
Okay, since you like my dad's quote, I'm gonna explain what that quote means as the parting advice, because this will change your life. I'll give you a quick story of it. I'm writing my first book. I'm sitting around the island countertop talking with my dad. I lived at home when I was with the Lakers. I was writing this book. My dad says, Jake, everybody seeks out a shortcut. Everybody wants a shortcut to being rich, the shortcut to having money, the shortcut to getting the job. He said, but look, there is no shortcut. And then he paused and we're like, yeah, there's no shortcut. And then he said, well, actually, Jake, there is a shortcut. And here's what it is. The only shortcut is to start now. Because the minute you start taking action is the minute your life will change. The minute you start taking action, good things start to happen. The minute you start to take action, you can start to see the progress. So in 3 years, you'll look back and say, damn, I did it. That to me started the journey that I'm on now, and great things have happened. My life has been changed because I took action. So if you want a shortcut and you're listening to this, here's what you do. Well, my parting words of advice is get off your butt and go do one thing that can make you better today. That's what positive living is all about.
I absolutely love that. Is your father still alive, by the way?
He is.
All right, I'm gonna find some way at some point to have a conversation with your dad, because I think that quote is fantastic, and I think there's no better way to end today's episode than what you said. So, Jake, my man, I truly, truly appreciate your time, and I know that you and I will connect again soon.
100%. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to episode number 287. Jake has an incredibly positive attitude and spirit, and I would say that he is definitely driven. I'm glad that Jake expanded on his morning routine, as that is something I truly believe is so important for everyone, no matter what age or point in your life, whether it's personally or professionally. Jake shared a few books with us, and I love how he broke down friends, mentors, as well as accountability partners. Jake's parting words are spot on, and I once again want to repeat the quote he shared with us from his father, Dave. The only shortcut in life is to start now. So my challenge to you today is just that. Take action. Don't wait, question, doubt, or even wonder. Go ahead and take action now. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.